Welcome back. And when I was a kid, diets were easy to pronounce. Keto, whatever. Just let me eat what I want. Well, it's been a while since I've done a wrestling video, and man, wrestling in general has changed a lot since I last talked about it. Unless you count that one speed draw video I did talking about WWE's current product. Little did I know that was 1 year out of a new wrestling company entering the ring, All Elite Wrestling, AEW. Founded by billionaire Tony Khan, with executive vice presidents being Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks, AEW was started with the intention to become a super independent wrestling company made to showcase the best independent wrestlers and the best independent styles on a national scale. And well over 2 years into its reign, I think it's more than exceeded expectations. I've been a wrestling fan since 2005, and it's been a real shame having to see WWE become a shadow of its former self. You might remember my old rant videos I did on them, but they came from a place of disappointment more than anger. WWE really got me into wrestling as I started watching January 2005 after I played SmackDown vs. Raw, and I was flipping through channels and I found SmackDown on UPN. And that's when I started watching Raw and SmackDown regularly, and I never missed episodes for a good 2-year period. Then I discovered TNA and I started watching that a lot. And once WWE started to go downhill for me in 2008, I started to watch TNA more. TNA was great and all, but once Hulk Hogan took over and tried to compete with WWE, it was really rough. And another wrestling company let me down. Then I started to get into independent wrestling and I discovered Ring of Honor and I started to watch that a lot more often. That became my go-to. But unfortunately I started going to college and I couldn't watch Ring of Honor as regularly anymore because it always aired at inconvenient times for me and I didn't have my DVR anymore to record it. So once again I was out of the loop on a lot of things. I still try to keep in touch and watch wrestling every now and then, but I noticed my interest starting to wane. That was until 2009 came around, and I saw that a lot of my favorites for me at Ring of Honor were going to be in it, and a lot of wrestlers that they snatched up that WWE didn't want anything to do with. And I saw that it was going to air on TNT, and I was like, holy crap, this is serious. We're actually getting a legit wrestling company that was an actual threatening competition to WWE. I'm like, what year is it? I felt like I went back in time to 1995 when WCW was getting a national TV deal. You know what? That's kind of what AEW has felt like to me. I was too young and didn't get into wrestling when the Attitude Era was going on and the Monday Night Wars in general, so I missed out on wrestling during its hottest period. Sure, I heard other people talking about it and I knew who established wrestlers were even though I didn't watch it. That's just a testament to how popular it was. That a little redneck kid like me who didn't even watch wrestling knew who Stone Cold, The Rock, The Undertaker, Goldberg, Sting, Hollywood Hogan, and all these other people were. And in a way, I think AEW has been a good alternative to that kind of era I missed out on. They've really done a good job of bringing back the chaotic storylines, the fast-paced television, and I think they even exceed the Attitude Era by making up for the Attitude Era lack of decent wrestling. Okay, that's not fair. I have watched old Raw. When I had the WWE Network for a brief time, I did watch old Raws and SmackDowns just to see what I missed out on. But the wrestling never was the best. Considering WWF wasn't a crash TV kind of style back then, wrestling matches tend to be a little on the short side. So if you're a wrestling fan like me who enjoys the wrestling more than the entertainment value, you're left feeling a little empty. But AEW changes all that. They combined all the dark and crazy storylines that made the Attitude Era fun with the great athleticism and fun matches that wrestling fans can enjoy. It's definitely the best of both worlds. Independent wrestling independent wrestling feel combined with the big budget production values that bigger wrestling companies had. It's not just a great wrestling show, it's a great TV show. I look forward to watching Dynamite every Wednesday just to see exactly what's gonna happen, because honestly, you don't know what's gonna happen. Sure, you're bound to get good wrestling because of matches that are announced that hook you in, but you never know what's gonna happen, who's gonna pop up, because it's crazy. In the 2 years since I started watching AEW, there are so many moments that have happened that are too much to name. It's a hard choice, but I think my favorite moment of AEW so far would be Winter's Coming 2020, when I saw one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Sting, make his comeback.
It's Sting! Sting! Back on TNT for the first time! Oh my God, since 2001!
It was such a shock. I had no idea Sting would be back in wrestling again, considering how his run in WWE was, well, much to be desired to say the least, and flat out insulting at its worst. It was so awesome to see Sting show up again in wrestling and to hear Tony Schiavone say his trademark scream, "It's Sting!" God, I still get goosebumps thinking of that moment. So AEW has done a good job of attracting hardcore wrestling fans by bringing in well-established names like Chris Jericho, Sting, CM Punk, and Bryan Danielson, but they've also done a good job of planting seeds for future stars, such as Darby Allin, who's my personal favorite, MJF, probably the most despicable heel you'll ever see in wrestling, Jungle Boy, who's a freaking stud, and another upcoming and rising star that I really love, Orange Cassidy. Yeah, Orange Cassidy is definitely a controversial figure among some wrestling fans, as some people believe that comedy has no place in wrestling. I say, sure, if that's your opinion, but I believe that they do a good job of incorporating it into the wrestling to where it's not distracting. And hey, who says you can't change things up a bit once in a while? After all, wrestling has always been about evolving with changing tastes. If that wasn't the case, we never would have had the Attitude Era, Extreme Championship Wrestling, Women's Wrestling. Hell, we wouldn't have the wrestling we have now because of changing times. Wrestling would not be on the level of popularity that it is if Vince McMahon didn't say, hey, what's with these smoky arenas? Why don't we take this to the next level, go grand scale, and go all budget, big budget? Granted, his methods have definitely become a little outdated now, and he refuses to change with the times, but thank goodness we have competition to change things up a bit and keep things interesting, you know? And as much as I love AEW, it's not perfect. Sometimes the booking isn't all the best, some storylines end prematurely, or some storylines don't make any sense at all. And the women's division, it's in the growing stages. But with the additions of such big stars as Ruby Soho and Dr. Britt Baker, I think it's in a good spot. It's definitely going to pick up eventually. But those are just minor nitpicks compared to the whole picture. For the first time in a long time, AEW has got me watching wrestling on a weekly basis again. Not just Dynamite on Wednesday, but Rampage on Friday nights. It's gotten to the point where even if I hang out with friends on some nights AEW is on, I'll just have it on in the background just so I can look over and see what's going on. Even when I'm not paying attention, it's fun to watch. So overall, if you're a wrestling fan and you haven't checked out AEW yet, what the heck are you waiting for? It's about time WWE had some decent competition to make things interesting. And if you call yourself a wrestling fan, you really should be betting on AEW's success. Because when other wrestling companies are doing good, wrestling is doing good. And when wrestling is doing good, wrestling fans are doing good. Why wouldn't you want wrestling to be good for you if you're a wrestling fan? So whether you're a WWE fan or an AEW fan at the end of the day, just know competition is a good thing. Why can't we all just watch our own thing? Why can't we all just exist at the same time, you know? So tune into TBS on Wednesday nights and TNT on Friday nights and get sucked into some good old-fashioned wrestling. And a little bit extra while you're at it. Stay loony, my toonies.
Get Tippity Yankee Sankey, orang-tang, tatty. Tippity Yankee Sankey, orang-tang, tatty.